Caleb's fearless stand against giants, the shocking truth about his epic faith must watch now. Caleb never thought his life would change in an instant, but when he stepped into the arena, everything spiraled into chaos. The crowd roared, blood pulsing in his ears. Shadows loomed, giant figures standing tall under the scorching sun, dwarfed only by their terrifying reputations. Legends whispered through the town, these were no ordinary foes, but monstrous beasts that terrorized the land, each with a history as dark as the storm clouds gathering above. Then there was the strange weather. It was as if the heavens themselves were holding their breath. Thunder rumbled ominously, yet the sky remained eerily blue, a contradiction that made everyone uneasy. Caleb felt the tension like a weight on his chest, a lump forming in his throat. He could sense fear radiating from the people around him. Their wide eyes, clammy hands, and trembling bodies reflected a sense of doom. Why were they so afraid? What truth lay behind these giants? Before he could gather his thoughts, whispers echoed through the crowd. They say one touched by them will never come back. A shiver raced down his spine, cocktails of dread and anticipation coursing through him. Caleb had faced many challenges in life, but nothing could prepare him for this moment. Anxiety surged, knotting his stomach, but beneath that lay a fierce determination. Something told him that today wasn't just any battle, it was the tipping point in a story much larger than himself. As Caleb stepped closer, the ground cracked beneath his feet. It was a dry, dusty split that seemed to mirror his own uncertainty. He looked into the eyes of the beast approaching him. It was as if he were staring into endless darkness, a void swirling with hunger and rage. He gulped hard, the sweat cooling on his brow. How could he stand against such overwhelming odds? But deep down, Caleb felt a flicker, a spark of belief. He could change the course of this tale. He clenched his fists, feeling the solid ground beneath him, anchoring him in the face of the storm brewing around them. Maybe he wasn't alone after all. Maybe, just maybe, there was a purpose to this madness, a reason to face those giants beyond fear. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Caleb inhaled deeply, bracing himself. The crowd had fallen silent, the air thick with expectant energy. All eyes were on him. It was now or never. One step back? Or like the towering giants, would he rise to meet the challenge? Ready or not, he was about to find out. The question loomed: could faith lead him to victory, or would he become yet another lost story whispered among the fearful? Caleb felt the weight of 1,000 eyes upon him, every gaze a dagger that dug deeper into his resolve. The giants loomed closer, their massive forms blotting out the sun, transforming the arena into an oppressive twilight. Fear whispered cruelly in the back of his mind. Did he truly have what it took to face these terrifying foes? Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder echoed through the sky, shaking the ground beneath him. Caleb's heart raced as the first giant roared, a guttural sound that filled the air with primal fury. The sound was like an earthquake, reverberating in his bones. The crowd gasped collectively, a sound of horror rippling through the throngs standing at the edge of the arena. For a heartbeat, Caleb felt frozen, paralyzed by the sheer enormity of the challenge before him, but then he remembered the stories. The tales of warriors who stood against giants not with sheer force, but with cunning and faith. His thoughts spiraled back to his childhood, when he had listened wide-eyed to his father recite the legends, spurring the townsfolk to bravely confront their fears. This is your moment, Caleb. He could almost hear his dad's voice echoing in his ears, urging him forward. The fueling rush of courage surged through him, igniting his muscles. He would not let those whispers define him. Shaking off the doubt that clouded him, he straightened his back and took a decisive step forward, feeling the dust beneath his feet saying no to despair. The first giant took a swinging step, the ground trembling with its weight. Caleb's instinct kicked in. He dodged sideways, narrowly avoiding a swing of the beast's massive arm. The world slowed for an instant as he ducked, his heart thundering faster now than the beast behind him. The crowd erupted into gasps and cheers, their energy electrifying the air. Caleb's mind raced. Could he outsmart the brute? He remembered the stories of how cunning could outmaneuver strength. He spotted a large boulder to his left, partially hidden by shrubs. His mind flicked through the pages of his life. How many times had he been underestimated? How many times had he tucked away creativity for fear of ridicule? No more, he thought. He would show them that hope has strength too. With a fierce determination, he dashed toward the boulder, leaping to grasp its edge. Swinging his legs over, he climbed atop, gaining height and a strategic advantage. The giant paused for a moment, its confusion evident as it scanned the ground below, searching for him. "Is that all you've got?" Caleb shouted, his voice ringing with uncharacteristic strength. The words echoed back to him, a battle cry that revived something deep within. The beast turned, its furious eyes locking onto him with a glare that could freeze fire. The crowd held its breath, a palpable silence enveloping the arena as Caleb felt every heartbeat like a drum against the tension. But in that silence, realization hit him hard. He wasn't just fighting for himself, but for everyone who had ever faced a giant, real or imagined. He drew in another breath, preparing not just for a fight, but for a transformation. Suddenly, everything shifted. A flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the giant's twisted features. From that brief moment of light, Caleb's eyes widened as a shocking truth clawed at the back of his mind. What if these giants weren't there to merely destroy, but there was something deeper at play? Caleb's heart raced as he contemplated the implications. What if this was a test, not just of strength, but of spirit? He was there for a reason, but what did it mean? And just like that, uncertainty twisted around him like a vine. With the crowd's anticipation hanging thick in the air, Caleb felt a renewed fire igniting within. The battle had just begun, but the looming question hung like a specter. Would he find the answers he sought, or would he unravel in the face of the unknown? The atmosphere in the arena shifted, crackling with tension as the giant let out another deafening roar, shaking dust from the ancient stones beneath Caleb's feet. It wasn't just anger. The beast's voice held a note of desperation, as if it, too, was caught in this unwelcome spectacle. Caleb swallowed hard, pondering the truth behind these raging creatures. Was there more to them than met the eye? He steadied himself atop the boulder, scanning the giant's features for clues. The enormous limbs, the fury etched deep in the creases of its brow, were they markers of a misunderstood creature? Suddenly, in the corner of his vision, he noticed the other giants lurking behind the first, their eyes reflecting shadows of longing. Longing for what? His heart thumped against his ribcage as realization crashed over him. Maybe they were not purely the monsters everyone believed them to be. Caleb took a deep breath, his mind spinning. What if they sought something lost? The thought sent a chill down his spine. The crowd watched in awe, their gasp filling the space as he pushed bravery over fear. If he was going to act, he had to do it now. These might not be mindless giants, they could be beasts yearning for release, their snarls masking true turmoil. What if he could forge a bridge instead of wielding a sword? Stop! Caleb bellowed, pushing the limits of his voice. The words sliced through the air, startling even him. The crowd shifted uneasily. "I won't fight you," he declared, standing tall against the clenched fists and twisted faces of the giant. "Let us talk." The air went still. The giant hesitated, its massive form swaying slightly, unsure of this tiny human atop the boulder. Could it understand him? Caleb searched its eyes, trying to see beyond the anger. In that fleeting moment, he thought he saw a flicker of uncertainty, the confusion of a creature caught in a world that demanded it act a certain way. For a moment, the arena held its collective breath. The murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some were anxious, some were intrigued. Caleb felt the electric energy shifting. Then, with a roar that seemed more like sorrow than rage, the giant lifted its massive hand high, and Caleb braced himself, heart thumping. Would he had made a grave mistake by showing vulnerability? In the blink of an eye, the impact of the hand came crashing down toward him like a runaway train. But it wasn't to crush him. No, it fell in a heavy thud beside the boulder, sending a cloud of dust into the air. Caleb gasped, but it was the gasp of realization, not fear. With that strike, the giant seemed to release something, a burden. The crowd's reaction morphed from horror to wonder, confusion to hope. Could they see what he was seeing? The tension lingered, mixed with disbelief, at what was unfolding. The other giant stirred, one stepping hesitantly closer, its expression softer now, doubt flickering in its fearful gaze. Could it be possible that all along, their rage stemmed from something deeper? An aching sorrow that tied each of them to the human experience? Caleb's heart raced as the giant locked eyes with him. Would this be the moment of connection or catastrophe? He took a step forward, extending his hand toward the beast's massive palm. "Tell me your story," he urged softly, the words spilling from his heart. Hope flickered within him as he anticipated receiving an answer, desperate to bridge the gap between worlds. But before the giant could respond, a thunderous crack split the sky. A bolt of lightning struck the ground just outside the arena, cascading sparks that danced like fireflies. The crowd gasped collectively, chaos starting to brew as shadows continued to loom ominously. What followed would unleash a power Caleb couldn't begin to imagine, and with the storm gaining strength, Caleb understood, the giant's true battle was just beginning, and he was standing at the epicenter. Would he seize the moment to help them, or would he be lost in the chaos? The tension spiraled ever upward, hanging by a thread. Caleb's heart thundered as the lightning flash illuminated the arena, casting eerie shadows that danced across the cold stone walls. The roar of the storm echoed the giant's cries, the air thick with a palpable sense of dread. He stood frozen, mouth dry. He had opened a door he could not close again. Fear clawed at him, yet amidst it, a flicker of determination ignited within his chest. The giants, seemingly stirred by the electrical storm, shifted uneasily. Their massive bodies swayed as if caught between instinct and uncertainty. The first giant, its massive hands still resting on the ground beside Caleb, looked vulnerable under the storm's flickering light, almost pleading. He felt a connection, a spark that bridged the gap between human and giant. "Please," he whispered, voice trembling but loud enough to cut through the clamor of the crowd. "You have to trust me." The arena vibrated with the sound of thunder, the crowd visibly shaken. Gasps erupted as the other giants moved closer, hesitantly pushing past the smoldering anger that had once kept them apart from Caleb. It was as if the storm had stripped away their fear, exposing raw vulnerability. Suddenly, a wild gust of wind swept through the arena, lifting dust and debris into the air. Caleb's eyes widened as he staggered back, struggling to maintain his balance. It felt as if the angry skies were responding, demanding an answer, a resolution to this ongoing conflict. He had initiated contact, but now could he follow through? The first giant's features softened further. Its eyes, once fierce and blazing, now carried a weight of sorrow. Caleb felt that weight, a heavy stone in his own chest. What lay behind the rage? Lightning illuminated the giant's face, revealing old scars amidst patches of hardened skin, marks of a long-fought battle. Each scar screamed of loss and pain, perhaps symbolizing lives taken, families shattered. The crowd's fear morphed into something deeper, shared for the first time in ages, a collective realization. The air charged with electricity. Caleb spoke out again. "You don't have to fight. There has to be another way." His breath caught in his throat, uncertainty weaving through his resolve. He felt the ground tremble beneath him, the giants shifting closer, forming a wall of confused power. One spoke, a deep and rumbling voice that seemed to shatter the silence. "How can we trust your kind? How can we believe you mean no harm?" Caleb took a deep breath, steeling himself. "Because I see you for what you are. I see the pain. This anger, it doesn't have to define you." Each word poured from his soul, and as he spoke, a powerful idea formed. What if their true desire was not just to be understood, but to be free of their burdens? The storm intensified, wind screaming like a banshee, but Caleb stood firm. In the midst of chaos, clarity struck him. "Let us work together. We can find your truth. We can make peace." As he spoke, a crackle of energy surged through the air, sending shimmering sparks that danced around the giants and himself. There was an audible catching of breath from the crowd. Hope surged, but in that moment of unity, Caleb's voice dipped just below a whisper. "But there's danger all around us. Who else will join our cause?" And just as he uttered those words, a figure emerged from the shadows at the far end of the arena. Dark and imposing, cloaked in mystery, it raised a staff glimmering with an ominous light. The giants recoiled, panic flashing across their faces. Caleb's heart raced, he realized the storm wasn't just a natural phenomenon. No, it was a signal. A warning of something far more sinister hiding just beneath the surface. The crowd held their breath, and Caleb felt a heavy dread settle in his chest. "What is it?" he urged, eyes darting toward the dark figure. And as the figure stepped forward, revealing a sinister grin, Caleb understood this was only the beginning. The tension in the arena thickened, the air heavy with dread and uncertainty. What would happen next? As the storm raged on, one question loomed: was Caleb prepared for the true battle ahead? The figure advanced, and Caleb felt his heart drop. It wasn't just the imposing presence that sent shivers down his spine, but the unmistakable aura of malevolence surrounding the cloaked entity. Each step echoed ominously, amplifying the tension in the air. The giants' fear morphed into panic, their massive forms trembling as they faced a menace they had only whispered about in dark corners. "Who dares disturb the peace of giants?" The figure's voice slashed through the chaos, smooth as silk yet laced with venom. The crowd trembled, uncertainty rippling through souls as dread seeped deeper into their collective consciousness. They had witnessed Caleb, a beacon of light, yet this ominous shadow threatened to extinguish that light completely. Caleb stood firm, clenching his fists. "We're seeking peace, not war," he shouted, his voice a mere tremor against the tide of malice approaching them. But as he spoke, dread pooled in his stomach, twisting tighter with every heartbeat. Could he lead them toward harmony, or was he merely sealing their fate in doom? The sinister figure chuckled, low and mocking. "Peace? You think you can offer them peace while they've been cast into this darkness? They do not deserve your trust, young one." The words slithered through the arena like poison, each syllable fueling the giant's doubts. Around him, Caleb sensed the giants wavering. Those fierce eyes he had seen softened, once again ignited with uncertainty. Gathering his courage, he took a step forward. "This is the moment. We have to choose our own path. Join me. You matter to this world, don't let fear take you down this dark road." With every powerful word, he felt the energy shift. Yet, deep inside, Caleb feared for what lurked in the shadows. The storm outside mirrored his tumultuous thoughts, the wind howling like a chorus of despair. Suddenly, the figure raised a hand, and the arena lit with an eerie glow. "You speak with passion, boy," it hissed. "But words are empty without will." The air shimmered as the figure summoned a dark cloud that coalesced into silhouettes of monstrous creatures, beasts that looked like nightmares spun from the corners of one's soul. Gasps echoed through the crowd. The giants stepped back, their knees buckling. The creatures swirled like storm clouds, ravenous eyes set on devastation, and Caleb felt the ground shift beneath him as an overwhelming dread threatened to consume the very essence of hope he had fought to forge. "Stand with me!" Caleb cried out, caught between fear and a desperate will to unite them against the encroaching darkness. "This is a fight for our futures. If we hold together, we can turn the tide. We are stronger united." But before the giants could respond, the creatures lunged forward, driven by the malevolent energy of the figure. Chaos erupted as lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating a scene spiraling into chaos. Caleb's ears rang with the noise, the roars of giants, the shrieks of creatures, and the thunderous storm above. The crowd scattered in panic, the tumult rising like a turbulent sea. Caleb felt time slow, dread threading through his veins. Was this where hope crumbled into dust? With one explosive command, Caleb wondered if he could rally the giants again. "Fight! Fight for your freedom!" As he shouted, an internal resolve surged within him. He couldn't back down now. Suddenly, the first giant took a step forward, its massive form a shadow against the storm. Could they rise against this evil? The air crackled, and a surge of energy shot through the arena. It was now or never. Would Caleb's plea resonate, or would the giants succumb to chaos? The ground rumbled beneath them, and a single question burned in Caleb's mind: could he remain the hope they needed, or was he leading them to their doom? As the giants began to move, the climax of battle loomed near, leaving Caleb gripping a fleeting sense of possibility amidst the chaos. Would this spark the change they desperately sought, or was it the match that ignited the inferno? The air crackled as the monstrous creatures lunged, their eyes glowing with malice, teeth bared like jagged blades ready to slice through anything in their path. Caleb steeled himself, heart racing against the pounding storm. The first beast collided with the ground, its weight shaking the earth, sending a shockwave that knocked some giants off balance. Would the giants fall, or could they hold their ground? Stand firm! Caleb roared again, fighting to pierce through the chaos. A massive giant near him, veins of uncertainty etched across its brow, hesitated, its fear palpable. But the creature pressed forward, relentless. Caleb's voice surged from deep within him, rising above the thundering chaos. Use your strength. Remember who you are. Around him, the giants hesitated but didn't crumble. In fact, something surged among them, a flicker of recognition sparked in their mighty hearts. They were powerful beings, noble protectors of their realm. Caleb's urgency ignited a shared memory of past glories. The largest giant, a towering figure with battle scars glinting like silver in the stormlight, let out a colossal roar. A sound that resonated through the crowd, a battle cry that shook the air and sent a wave of courage rippling through the giants. We fight for our kin. For our honor. It bellowed. The tide began to turn. Caleb felt the winds shift. Hope seemed real again. He joined the giant, fists clenched at his sides, heart pounding with every pulse of determination. The first wave of monstrous beasts crashed into a line of giants, teeth clashing against thick skin as chaos reigned. Then, in a breathtaking heartbeat, the giants interlocked their arms, forming a protective barrier around Caleb. They faced the nightmare together. A stunning, united front against the encroaching darkness. The beast struck again, its claws aiming for Caleb. He ducked, his heart racing as he felt the wind of its swipe rush past him. In that moment, fear clung to him like a dark cloak, but the warmth of the giants surrounding him bolstered his spirit. They wouldn't let him fall. Push back! Caleb shouted, raising his fists. The giants harmonized their movements, shifting forward as one, catching the monstrous intruders off guard. Their combined strength throbbed through the ground, a beat of defiance against the creeping evil threatening to envelop them. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, the sinister figure stood apart, manipulating the shadows swirling around it. A twisted grin spread across its hooded face, eyes glinting with satisfaction as the tide surged against them. You can fight this battle, but you cannot defeat me, it taunted, voice smooth as ice, weaving through the battlefield like smoke. Caleb's pulse quickened. We can't defeat you? Watch us! He felt a rush of energy bubbling inside him, coursing like fire through his veins. The giants roared louder, pushing the creatures back with renewed vigor. Each impact fueled Caleb's fire, urging him further toward the dark figure, but just then, an unexpected sharp pain lanced through his side. Caleb stumbled back, glancing down to find a monstrous claw had grazed him during the fray, blood trickling and mixing with the rain. Panic surged through him. He staggered, feeling the world spin. Caleb! A giant shouted, fear creeping into its tone as the dense fog of battle swirled around them. Whispers of doubt surged back, threatening to drown the unity they had just forged. Caleb fought against the pain, met the giant's gaze, and found the strength he needed. Don't give in! He growled, his voice twisting into a plea, knowing every moment counted. He could see the figure grinning wider, hungry for the despair sprouting among them, but amidst that agony and chaos, Caleb glimpsed infusion of defiance twinkling in the eyes of the giants. Would they fight, or would despair seep in and steal their unity? He felt the weight of their hope resting on his shoulders, a burden he was determined to carry. Together, they had fought against the darkness, but would they hold strong when the figure threatened to draw them back into the abyss? A breath caught in his throat as he pondered, was this a turning point, or had he unleashed something more sinister? Just as Caleb opened his mouth to urge them onward, the ground heaved unexpectedly. What else lurked in the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike? The line between victory and defeat wavered dangerously, and in that suspense-filled moment, uncertainty gripped them all. Would bravery sustain them against the encroaching tide, or had the darkness already cast its spell too deep? As the ground trembled beneath them, a deafening roar erupted from the shadows, drowning out the sounds of the battle. Caleb's heart pounded wildly as he struggled to find his footing amidst the chaos. The soil exploded upwards, and a gargantuan creature, even larger than the ones already attacking, emerged from the earth, a beast that seemed to be made of night itself. Its skin shimmered like oil in the dim light, and its eyes glowed a sickly green, piercing straight through the storm. No! Caleb yelled, voice cracking with dread. The towering giants around him shifted nervously, the unity they had found wavering against the overwhelming force now before them. The air felt thick, heavy with despair as the newly revealed creature surveyed the battlefield with malicious glee. More weakness. The hooded figure called, standing back with a victorious smirk as it beckoned the new beast forward. You thought you could fight me? You refused to see the truth. It is already over. Caleb clenched his jaw, feeling the blood still trickling from his side. He wanted to collapse, to let the darkness pull him under, but he couldn't. Not now. Not when the fate of so many rested on their shoulders. We've come too far to give up. He shouted, hoping to infect the giants with that same fire he felt inside. As if ignited, the giants began to move again, but this time their resolve felt uncertain. The colossal creature towered over them, its claws snapping like thunder, causing a tremor that echoed through the ground. Caleb could see doubt creep into their eyes, the flickering flame of hope dimming. He had to act fast. Remember the stories. He cried out, searching every giantess face until he found the look of remembrance, the memories of victories past, of battles won under the weight of challenge. You've battled worse than this. You fought for your families, for your land. Stand together. You are giants unyielding. With each word, he breathed strength into their hearts, and slowly, the resolve began to return. The largest giant, the one who had roared so mightily before, raised its massive fist and bellowed, "For our kin! For our honor!" That battle cry rippled through the ranks once more, igniting a fire that was deep within every giant, but the sinister figure laughed, a chilling sound that made the rain stand still. You are foolish to rally, little human. My pet is only beginning to play. It raised its hand, the shadow swirling around it thickening as if to snatch the giant's courage itself. A sudden crack split the night air, pulling Caleb's gaze back to the beast. It lunged forward, teeth bared, and just as it did, a bolt of lightning illuminated the battlefield. In that flash, Caleb saw the armored giants brace themselves, fists clenched for a battle they had almost lost faith in. Adrenaline surged through him, drowning the pain. Now! He screamed, his voice piercing through the storm, catalyzing the giants into action. They charged together, a wall of defiance against the encroaching monstrosity, but the shadowy figure smiled wider, a wicked gleam in its eyes. As the giants began to push against the beast, it knew something the heroes didn't. The ground beneath Caleb's feet quaked violently again. What now? He thought, his instincts flaring wildly. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed from deep within the earth, a sound unlike anything he had ever known. With dread welling up in his chest, he caught a glimpse of movement beneath them, a horrifying realization dawning. Caleb, what if? A giant murmured, uncertainty laced within its voice. Could it be that there was something worse hidden beneath? Had they merely poked the beehive, unwittingly drawing forth something even more sinister? As the sky darkened even further, and another quake sent ripples through the giant's lines, Caleb braced himself. Whatever horror lurked below was coming, and he felt the weight of every hopeful heart resting against the tension in his clenched fists. Get ready! He shouted against the wind's fury, determination threading through his fear. No retreat. This was not just a moment of glory ahead, but the fight of their lives. But even as he readied, the earth began to split, revealing the unknown threat that waited silent and deadly. What awaited them in that yawning chasm? Would they face their doom, or would they discover a new path to victory? The ground split wide open, yawning like a ravenous beast ready to swallow them whole. Caleb's heart raced, an urgent drum in the face of creeping dread. The thunderous roar that erupted from below felt like the very essence of fear manifesting into sound. It clawed at his chest, squeezing tighter with each pulse. Stay focused, Caleb called, forcing the words through clenched teeth. The giants wavered, confusion etched in their expressions as they fought to comprehend the scene unfolding before them. The chasm filled with an ominous energy, one that promised only darkness and despair. As the rift expanded, Caleb noticed flashes of movement. Tendrils of shadowy forms began to slither out, writhing like snakes in search of prey. His stomach twisted. What is that? He thought, the instinct to retreat clashing with his duty to stand firm. In the next moment, a massive arm shot up from the hole, black scales glistening like obsidian. It had the power to disrupt the fabric of reality. Caleb's breath caught in his throat. The giant's resolve was faltering. Would they let the shadows consume them? No. "We are giants," shouted the largest amongst them. Yet, even as he rallied the others, his voice trembled. Caleb couldn't afford hesitation. "Fight! Fight for every soul that stands with us!" Caleb yelled, forcing conviction into the trembling air. The words hung like a lifeline, and slowly, the giants nodded. They heaved forward, but Caleb noticed their apprehension. But the figure in the shadows sensed the shift, its smirk widening like a predator closing in on its prey. "Step into the darkness, and know true despair," it taunted, gesturing towards the chasm as the thick shadows seeped out onto solid ground. The ground rumbled violently, rocks flying as they blasted into the air. Caleb shielded his eyes. He couldn't let fear take hold. They were on the brink of obliteration. "We have the light within us. We'll fight together," he shouted, lifting his sword high, the blade catching a flicker of lightning in the dimness. Thunder erupted as the shadow beast rose, towering over them. Its presence was overwhelming, darkness coiling around its muscular form. With one swing, it smacked its claws down, sending tremors through the earth. Caleb stumbled but regained himself, forcing his gaze back to the beasts and battling giants. They pushed against the weight of the promise that hung heavy in the air. "Hope. Don't let it go," he urged them, feeling the connection to their strength ignite the bubbling courage within. As the shadow engulfed the first row of giants, Caleb saw the light in their eyes flickering, threatening to die. "We won't let our fires be extinguished," he shouted, focusing his intent. From the depths came a cacophony of howls and screeches. More shadowy forms emerged, multiplying the enemy's ranks. Caleb's heart sank, the tide was turning. His voice wavered but he pressed on. "Remember the battles you faced. This is not the end." A crack splintered through the air, and suddenly, the ground beneath them erupted in a volley of light. A blinding flash illuminated the battlefield, momentarily pushing back the shadows. Caleb caught breath as he felt warmth spreading over him. But it was short-lived as the darkness surged back, stronger and more determined. "Will we be swallowed whole?" a giant whispered, fear now paint on its face. Caleb felt that fear gnawing at him too. "No. Look at the sky. When the storm is fiercest, the light fights back." He was weaving their fate, burning his hope into their hearts. But the ground rumbled again, and the silence that followed was deafening. Caleb turned, sweat trickling down his brow, and realized that the something worse was here. The shadows twisted, forming a massive creature, its eyes a pair of burning embers. It creaked as it rose, twisting and thrashing upward, sending a bone-chilling resonance through the air. Caleb swallowed hard. This was not something they could fight, it demanded submission. "Prepare yourselves," he shouted one last time as they were surrounded in darkness. The moment of truth loomed over them. Would they fight or would they fall? What did they truly understand of their enemy? And what was left to lose when the line between light and dark began to blur? The shadows clawed closer, a serpentine tide that threatened to engulf everything in its path. Caleb felt the weight of the darkness pressing on his shoulders. Terror gripped his heart, but he forced himself to stand tall, clenching his sword with all his might. The bright glint of his blade felt like the last flicker of hope amidst the despair. "Stay together," he shouted, his voice barely rising above the chaos. The giants, towering yet trembling, formed a hesitant line. Each face revealed a kaleidoscope of fear, but Caleb locked eyes with them, rallying their spirits with determination. They needed to believe they could win. Leader or not, he had to embody that hope. The monstrous shadow continued to grow, its depths swirling like smoke in a suffocating room. It pulsed, drawing the very lifeblood from the landscape around them. Trees withered, dirt cracked, and Caleb could feel the distant cries of the earth beneath him, crying out against the calamity. A low growl resonated from the figure as it shifted, its form twisting into a grotesque reflection of power. "You think you can resist?" it hissed, voice like gravel crunching underfoot. Caleb stepped forward, heart pounding fiercely. "We will not yield. We will fight with every breath." The giants stood a touch straighter. Their spines stiffened, drawn up by Caleb's fiery words, but then, the ground quaked again, and an echoing shout resonated through the air. "Do not succumb, brothers!" one of the giants bellowed. "Together we can push back the darkness." The words sparked a flicker of defiance among the group. Caleb saw it, their shared determination igniting. They gripped their arms and weapons closer, forming a united front against the shadow beast, yet, before they could launch their attack, the creature lashed out, curling its shadowy appendages toward them, striking with the force of a thunderbolt. Caleb stayed rooted, but lost sight of a giant to the dark tendrils. Desperation clawed deeper into his chest. "Stay strong," he cried, but doubt crept in, slithering beneath the surface. Then the vision of one vibrant flame burst into his mind, a memory of laughter, joy, and unity. It was enough to drive the fear from his heart. "Remember the light. We've fought for it before," he roared, lifting his sword aloft once more. As if infused with his newly regained conviction, the blade pulsed with brilliant light. Radiance poured from its tip, cascading over the giants beside him. Caleb felt their spirits rekindle, merging with his own. "On my mark," he ordered. The giants nodded, shouts of concord swelling among them, voices rising like the crescendo of an anthem. Their fear felt lighter, as if a burden had been shared. "Now!" Caleb bellowed. With synchronized precision, the giants charged forward, weapons raised. Together, they clashed against the advancing shadows, striking at the tendrils as they demarcated a line of light through the encroaching darkness. The ground shook, but the giants stood firm, a living barricade against despair. Yet something shifted again, an energy crackling through the air. The shadow beast began to spiral, becoming a tempest of pure malevolence, eyes blazing hotter than before. Caleb's heart raced. It was fighting back stronger than ever. "Push! Push! We can't let it win!" he shouted, but the force striking back was monstrous, overwhelming their collective storm of hope. In a moment that felt forever stretched, Caleb realized with dawning horror the darkness was feeding off their fear. It had found its strength in their doubts. "Your past is riddled with mistakes," the shadows whispered tauntingly to Caleb, drawing closer. "What will you choose now? Hope or surrender?" Dread churned in Caleb's stomach. Could he truly lead? What if everything he believed in was an illusion? With the roar of giants around him faltering, and shadows creeping closer, Caleb stood at a precipice of truth. What choice would he make when faith was most needed? As the darkness loomed larger, Caleb's mind spun with uncertainty. Would he succumb, or could he rise above the abyss in time? The next moment would dictate it all, but would the light within him prevail? Or would he let the shadows consume everything he loved? Caleb braced himself, the darkness swirling like a vortex around him. The ominous presence of the shadow beast loomed, a horrific gaping maw just waiting to swallow them whole. Shivers ran through him, but deep within, a flicker of defiance sparked. "I won't let you win," he shouted, voice echoing against the chaos. The giants, shaken but resolute, strained forward, their colossal bodies forming an unyielding line beside him. Caleb sensed the pulsing energy building among them, fueled by shared hope and strength. The way they stood, their massive forms emboldened by unity, ignited a potent fire within him. Together, they had faced the worst of fears. Together, they could face this. "Remember your stories," Caleb urged, glancing toward them. "Remember what we fight for." He felt the ground beneath shift, trembling as the dark tendrils tore through the air, grazing the giants like whispering shadows of dread. But among them, an unmistakable spark ignited. A massive hand clenched into a fist. The largest giant, eyes blazing with determination, roared, "For our fallen! For our children!" The battle cry erupted, affirming every scar and shadow of their past. It resonated through Caleb, wrapping him like a shield. "Yes! Together, we fight!" He felt their spirit join with his, channels of energy flowing through their collective will, lifting the weight of uncertainty. With a fierce shout, Caleb lifted his sword high, its light slicing through the air, illuminating the dark clouds swirling above. "Now!" He charged forward, the giants following suit with fucking earth-shattering steps. The long spinning shadows faltered, wavering as they met the glorious burst of light that radiated from Caleb's blade. As they clashed, the impact echoed with a sound like thunder. Each giant swung their weapons, deflecting the grasping fingers of darkness. Bright flashes sparked as they struck against the tendrils. "We are not afraid," Caleb shouted, feeling the heat of hope climb, pushing the fear out of their minds. "Our strength is our unity." The shadows shrieked in outrage, drawing back from the light. With each strike, Caleb and the giants pushed deeper into the ebony maw of the beast, determination carved on their faces. And yet, the vile laughter of the sinister figure taunted him from afar. "Foolish mortals," it moved between the chaos, its voice a cacophony of scorn. "You'll be crushed. You can't survive against your own despair." Caleb felt the weight of doubt threaten to undermine their efforts, but they could not afford to fall. "No. Our past does not dictate our future," he bellowed. "Stand with me. Our voices rise against the darkness." With each pulse, with each chord of harmony among them, his words seemed to give life to their resolve. They struck hard, pushing the darkness back, inch by inch, until a bright flash illuminated the entire arena. Light burst forth from Caleb, bathing the giants in warm, golden light that pushed deep into the cracks of shadow. Then, in that moment, something incredible happened. The towering shadow beast began to recoil, its form flickering like a dying flame against a gust of wind. It was faltering, the shadows ebbing away. Caleb felt exhilaration. The tides had shifted. In that bright glow, he saw the fear diminish in the giant's eyes and hope spring forth with vengeance. "We hold the light," one giant shouted, hoisting its massive fist high. It was a sign, a rebirth of courage surging in waves throughout the group. Sweat dripped from Caleb's brow as he focused on the central mass of darkness. "Push. Together," he cried, the echo of his plea ringing in the storm. In a final rally, Caleb summoned every ounce of energy. The memory of laughter, tales of courage, and the united force of the giants surged forward. They channeled the joyous moments they had fought for, and it erupted like a supernova, igniting the battlefield with blinding brightness. The shadow beast screeched, its form splintering as light washed over them. "No!" It knew it was defeated, collapsing into nothingness, shadows disintegrating like dust in the wind. And then silence. Caleb stood panting, catching his breath as the light faded, revealing the arena now stripped of darkness. The giants paused, looking around in disbelief. We did it," one whispered in awe. The giants erupted in cheers, a sound that filled the air like music, lifting the somber weight of the battle that had threatened to consume them. Caleb could only smile, feeling warmth seep into his heart as realization settled in. They had faced the giants of their past, conquered the monsters of despair, and emerged together unbroken. The energy shifted around them. The skies cleared, and sunlight poured down like a blessing from the heavens. With every giant lifting their arms, gratitude surged within Caleb. As the crowd erupted into joyful, thunderous applause, Caleb looked around at the giants beside him. They were not just warriors, they were friends, allies bound by an unshakable bond. Thank you all," he called out, his voice carrying the weight of their shared joy. "Hold on to this moment. Let it remind us that together we can conquer any darkness." And as the cheers soared, Caleb knew this was not just a victory. It was a new beginning. They had faced their fears head-on, and in the echoes of their triumph, Caleb felt a renewed sense of purpose. They would rebuild, they would share their tales, and they would teach future generations that courage listened not to fear but to hope. As night fell, the stars twinkled overhead, a reminder of the light they held within their hearts, ever ready to face whatever giants loomed in the shadows beyond. And so, armed with faith and friendship, they ventured forth into their new dawn. Now that you've reached the epic conclusion of Caleb's journey, make sure you subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support our quest for greater tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your thoughts matter to us, and wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. You need to show your support now.